Kyren Williams, RB7 on Sleeper, RB8 on Underdog, goes 12 picks earlier on Sleeper at pick 17 compared to 29 on Underdog. I mean, this is last year's breakout running back. The RB2 in points per game, now available as the RB8 in the middle of a third round on Underdog. One of only 2 running backs to average over 95 scrimmage yards per game. CMC, obviously the unquestioned RB1 in drafts, but everyone's concerned with Kyren. Hayden, are the public wrong? Should Kyren be going 3 or 4 spots higher positionally?
I have Kyren as my running back 5 and 16th overall player. Last time I checked, fantasy football is about coming in first or second place. Yeah, he has a downside risk.
Yeah,
so do a lot of other running backs, but he also has a proven upside. We just copy paste what he did last year. And yeah, Blake Corum being in town does matter a little bit. But when I removed Kyren Williams games where he played 80% or more of the snaps, Kyren Williams still averaged 20 touches per game. It was just about the Sean McVay philosophy change where he has light boxes and he can run right up the middle, and he's got 1,000 pounds of interior linemen. And Kyren Williams is really, really quick in his decision making, and he can get right up field and convert these touchdowns. And the Rams, to me, are one of the most underrated offenses because they were dealing with so many injuries throughout the season. But when they were all healthy together, the Rams were one of the best offenses in the entire NFL. That's not hyperbole. That is how the numbers played out. And I'm not sure if people are just kind of overlooking what Kyren Williams did last year. I think people are just so hyper focused on the downside risk, but nobody remembers the season that you finished 6th in your fantasy league. I'm trying to find guys that could get me first round value, and I think that's exactly what Kyren Williams did.
People kind of forget how much Kyren Williams has also changed schematically what the Rams have been able to do. And part of that's the offensive line, part of it's the scheme. But the Rams were one of those teams for a couple of years who just didn't really want to rush the ball in the red zone. And then last year, he has 55 red zone attempts, which is only 10 fewer than Christian McCaffrey, ranked 4th amongst all running backs. This was a guy who was an integral part of their scheme, even with Puka Nacua having the best rookie wide receiver season of all time. So, yeah, I'm very much in on Kyren. Rich, where do you land on Kyren?
I love Kyren. I can't get my head around how people are valuing him right now because, this is a guy that finishes an RB1 75% of his games last year. He finishes a top 5 running back 50% of the time last year. He was an absolute league winner last year.
It seems good.
And then we're looking at it and everybody's just obsessing about the fact that they've added Blake Corum without looking at what else they've done on this offense. As Hayden hinted at, this interior offensive line could be absolutely game-wrecking. They are 3 of the biggest players in the league, and I think teams are going to really struggle with that. You've got an offense that has weapons outside. Teams are going to be scared to single cover Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. You're going to have to pick your poison of, are we going to load the box to try and stop Kyren Williams and this monster interior offensive line, and potentially risk single covering the guys outside? Or are we going to allow extra resources in coverage and then open up to be gashed down the middle? So I think that what the Rams have done this offseason, if anything, to me, reinforces the hype and the hope in Kyren Williams. And I think that, to get him in the second rounds of redraft leagues, if you can go and start a draft with one of these stud wide receivers and then come back and get Kyren Williams in the second, that feels like an absolute cheat code.
Tom, I want to flip this idea because he's going in the 3rd round in Underdog. I think that's enough draft capital or down the board enough where I'm drafting Kyren and Blake Corum on the same damn team and just saying whoever is starting it's Sean McVay wants one player to really handle all of the work because he plays with all of that pace. How do you play with pace? You can't substitute players on and off the field. And Sean McVay doesn't want to have personnel trends where other defenses kind of game plan and figure things out. He wants the same kind of look and then just being able to do a million different things with it. And that means keeping your running back on the field a ton. So Blake Corum is one of the most expensive handcuffs, but if you can promise me I'm going to get the RB1 for Sean McVay's team and I have to trade in a 3rd and a 10th round draft pick for that, I think I would trade a 3rd and 10th round draft pick for back half of a 1st round draft pick every single time. And I think that's kind of like what I would be getting by handcuffing these two together.
Yeah, and I think structurally, if you zoom out slightly and go, okay, so I'm getting the qualities that we look for in a hero running back, somebody who has legendary upside, somebody who has work in the receiving game, who has the goal line role, and who could see a huge amount of touches. I can get 2 really good wide receivers. And then when we get to the question mark tier of wide receivers, Cooper Kupp, who is, over 31 years old now, Stephon Diggs, who's in a new offense, DJ Moore, who's dealing with far more talent around him to compete with than ever before, Michael Pittman, who's got Anthony Richardson at quarterback. But instead, I can lock in Kyren Williams as my hero running back and then do whatever I need to structurally. I can take elite tight ends, I can take an elite quarterback, I can hammer the wide receiver position, still hit that sort of pick 72 to 108 where the running backs are really good, grab another 2, and then maybe as my RB4, take Blake Corum. I'm absolutely fine locking down a backfield like that. I know that over the years we've gone back and forth on whether handcuffing is good or bad. But in best ball, I think you can build around that and you can say Kyren Williams is a little fragile and he might miss time. But I'm also betting that if he comes back, he's going to go straight back into this role that he had last year that was incredible for fantasy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there would be a chance where if you Kyron, like, he missed like 4 games last year. If you time that correctly and his advance rate dips low enough, and then he comes back for the finals, and then now you have a low owned, or the inverse where like Kyron's the guy that you needed. Then in week 15 he misses time, and now all of a sudden Corum is now going to be the guy that you need. There could be like some advance rate reasons why those two kind of get paired together there. So yeah, I think the handcuffing becomes harder if it's like your 1st round draft pick. But I think that the difference between 1st and 3rd round draft picks is so drastic that I think this is like as expensive of a running back duo that I'd be willing to handcuff together. But that just like kind of goes back to like how much faith I have in Sean McVay and the Rams in general.
If you're finding us for the first time, hit the subscribe button. Loads more redraft, loads of best ball content, and loads of dynasty content right here. We are closing in on 2,500 subscribers. All you got to do is hit that button.